Hello and welcome to this game pickups video for the months of May, June and July 2022. I'm aware that July isn't quite over yet, in fact we're still kind of near the beginning of it to be honest, but I don't really plan on picking up any new games this month just because there's no new ones that I'm particularly interested in. I suppose the only exception to that really is the Klonoa remakes, which I am interested in playing. I never got around to playing the original games. So there is a possibility that I could get that, but if I do end up getting that, I'll probably let you know in the next one of these game pickups videos. I also actually didn't pick up any games in June either, so really this is just a pickups video for May, and it's just a couple of months late. So let's crack on with it, and I'll talk you through everything that I've got. At the beginning of May, it was actually my birthday, and although I didn't actually ask for any games, just because, like I've been saying, there's not really been anything that I've been particularly interested in, I still got a few surprises, with the first one being the only PS5 game that we're going to be talking about today, with the Final Fantasy VII Remake, this being the Intergrade version for PS5. I actually haven't played this too much. I'm still kind of near the beginning. I'm in the slums area and I'm just doing a load of side quests at the moment. And to be honest, it's not really grabbing me that much. The gameplay feels a little bit repetitive. All of the side quests that I've done kind of just feel like busy work, like looking for cats and stuff and like attacking these weird dog creatures. Like, it's fine and I can appreciate that a lot of people probably do like this, but I just don't think it's for me. I'm not really a big fan of hack and slash style games, and this really does feel like that, even though obviously the original one was a traditional JRPG that was turn-based. This one is more real-time combat, and while that is good because it makes the remake different to the original, I kind of actually think that I would probably prefer the original over this. It's probably pretty weird that I've never played the original one, to be honest, with me being a big fan of the PS1, but I've never really been that into JRPGs, or even RPGs in general, really, unless they really stand out to me for some reason. But yeah, with Final Fantasy VII probably being one of the most popular JRPGs of all time, I probably should get around to playing the original at some point. What I will say is that the remake does look really good. Like, graphically it's pretty incredible, and they've done a really good job with taking the original and then making it look really fancy for new hardware. But yeah, I don't really know what it is with this. I don't know why I'm not gelling with it all that much, to be honest. I'm just not finding the story all that engaging. It seems really slow paced and all of the side quests aren't really all that important, at least at the bit that I'm at. But I think the main thing is that I'm just finding the gameplay to be really repetitive. It kind of just feels like I'm walking into all of these different rooms and then killing all the enemies and then repeating that over and over again. There doesn't really seem to be a lot to it. Having said that though, I am still at the start, so maybe it does get a lot better as you get further into it, so maybe I should give it more of a chance and keep playing. I do plan on picking this back up and continuing from where I left off at some point, but for now, I think this is going to go on the back burner. Now, every other game that we're talking about in this video is actually for the Nintendo Switch, which is weird because I kind of feel like there hasn't been that many games releasing for the Switch recently, and yet I've got 5 of them right here that I'm going to be talking about. So the first of these games was another one that I unexpectedly got for my birthday, and the reason this was so unexpected is because I hadn't really talked about this all that much, but in the back of my mind I did want to give it a go, so that was a nice surprise, and it was Nintendo Switch Sports. Now, weirdly, out of all of the games that I'm going to be talking about today, this has probably been the one that I've had the most fun with, even though it's debatably probably one of the most flawed. Nintendo Switch Sports is kind of the successor to the Wii Sports series, but it's kind of a bit different to those original games in quite a few different ways. The main difference right off the bat is that the Miis aren't as much of a focus in this. Although you can use your Miis because the Switch does have a Mii creator, it's much more in the background, and also the Miis look kind of weird because they're quite tall and lanky, and it just doesn't quite look right. So instead of the Miis, you've got this new character creator where you create these kind of cartoon versions of yourself that look maybe a little bit more sort of realistic than the Miis do. They're definitely a different visual style that more closely matches the visual style that Nintendo Switch Sports goes for in general. So overall, although I kind of do miss the simplicity of the enemies, I actually think that this new character creator is quite good. But in terms of the actual gameplay, you've got 6 sports to play through, so you've got Chambara, football, volleyball, badminton, tennis and bowling, and all of these different sports vary quite a lot in quality. Probably my favourite ones are football and volleyball, because I feel like these are the two where you have the most control over your character and where the controls kind of work the best. The football minigame almost just feels like Rocket League, only if you are an actual person and it uses motion controls instead of just a standard control setup. But although football does rely somewhat on motion controls, this is actually the minigame here that uses motion controls the least, with you just swinging the Joy-Con to do kicks. But you still do use the analog sticks to move your character like you would in a normal game. Volleyball again is probably one of my favourites because it actually feels like you can move your character properly. Like there's a point where you can actually use the analog stick to position your character to block the ball when it's being shot over to your side of the net. But as well as that, I feel like the motion controls here are actually pretty accurate, and when you're hitting the ball, you can hit it quite accurately to where you want it to go in the court. Badminton is actually another good one. At first, I wasn't too sure about this, but if you keep playing it, there is a little bit of a knack to it. I think it's just a matter of getting the timing right when you actually hit the shuttlecock. But yeah, once you get that down, this game is also pretty good because of how accurate it is. You can actually do some pretty accurate shots here, and it's probably better than the tennis game. Speaking of tennis, of course, that also returns here as well, and this is locked to be in a doubles mode because I guess badminton is kind of just the singles equivalent of that really. But in tennis, it doesn't quite feel like you have as much control over where the ball's going or over your character either. Your character's movement is just done completely automatically, and sometimes you'll be wanting to like hit the ball with a backstroke, but your character won't be holding the racket in that way, so you'll kind of like mess up shots even though you know what you want to be doing. It's just a little bit sort of clunky, I think. Then we've got Chambara, but to be honest, I don't really like this one. It's a good concept and it looks really fun, but I just feel like a lot of the time the people you're playing against are just kind of like waving their arms around, and somehow a lot of the time that seems to beat me. I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm really bad at it or something and I'm trying to take it in too slow of a pace or something. But yeah, I didn't really like this one. It kind of just feels a little bit luck-based. And then we have bowling, which by far is my least favourite of all of these minigames, just because everybody that you play against seems to just get constant strikes, which makes me think that there's just some kind of like tactic you can do just to get a strike every single time, which kind of just takes away from the fun of it. I feel like this one would almost be a little bit better if it was more unpredictable, but it feels like you're almost too accurate in this game. There are a couple of other quite annoying things about this game, to be honest, and I could probably talk about this for quite a while. Like the fact that you unlock cosmetic items for your characters so ridiculously slowly, and also you unlock them kind of randomly as well. And of course, with it being a modern game, it's also a timed store, so it puts pressure on you to keep playing it all the time in order to unlock everything, which makes you kind of start playing it just to unlock stuff, rather than playing it because you actually want to play it. I really hate that sort of thing, to be honest, and although there's no microtransactions, it still feels a little bit seedy. Almost like it's trying to psychologically manipulate you in a way. There's also a situation with this game where, because there's so much of an emphasis put onto the online component, it almost makes the game much more competitive than what the Wii Sports series was. I feel like with Wii Sports it was always focused on playing it with friends locally, but now with Nintendo Switch Sports it's more so focused on playing it with random people online. Now this is good in a way, and it would probably appeal to certain people much more than the Wii Sports games did, but I kinda just feel like it takes itself a little bit too seriously. But yeah, even though I do have a lot of criticisms, I have had a lot of fun with this. To be honest, one of the biggest criticisms is probably that there's not enough content here. They are adding golf to it later in the year, but I feel like that's too little too late. This thing needed much more minigames in order to keep people playing it. I don't think there's going to be very many people who are passionately playing this still. I know I've dropped off, I've not played this thing for about a month, even though it was fun at the time. It just needed more content. The last game that I got for my birthday is one that was maybe a little bit less of a surprise, because I did talk about this quite a lot when it first came out, saying that it looked really interesting and might be a way for me to get back into this series that I was once really passionate about. And of course, this game is Pokemon Legends Arceus. Now, I've been wanting like a proper big open world Pokemon game for literally years. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that it's taken them this long to actually finally make that. But the issue with this game, really, is that even though it does have this big open world, it just doesn't feel like there's anything to do in it. The actual open section is just really bland. There's basically nothing to do apart from walk around and catch Pokemon. But there's no like big like cities to explore. All of the areas that I've been to at the moment feel quite samey. The Pokemon don't really like interact with each other very much, and it kind of just feels a little bit basic. It doesn't feel like you're in this big open world that's like really bustling and alive. It kind of just feels a little bit dead. And I don't think this is helped by the graphics either, which are pretty bad, to be honest. And this is one of those examples of games that make me notice just how underpowered the Switch is, especially when you compare it to stuff like the PS5. I really do think it's getting to the point now where Nintendo do need to bring out a new console that's actually more closely competitive with the PS5 and Xbox Series X. Because when you play games like this that are kinda supposed to be on a bigger scale, it kinda just doesn't really work very well. So yeah, I was kind of a little bit disappointed by this one, to be honest. I don't really know what else there is to say because it's such a basic game that I feel like there isn't really very much to say. Literally, you go around this town area, you get given like side quests or like main story quests. You go out into the open, you catch some Pokemon, and then you go back to the town and kind of just repeat that over and over again. There's not even that much of an interesting story going on to keep you hooked or anything. I don't know, I kind of keep saying this over and over again, but I keep wanting to give the series a second chance, or third or fourth or fifth chance at this point. But I think I've just like grown out of Pokemon. I just don't think it's very interesting anymore. They really do need to do something with this series to properly freshen it up to get my interest again. And I did think that maybe this game could be that, but it wasn't. Now, these next three games are also all for the Switch, but these ones I didn't get for my birthday, but rather I got them for my girlfriend's birthday. But seeing as they're part of our like combined game collection, I figured I might as well talk about them anyway. So the first of these games is one that my girlfriend asked for because she recently played Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which is the newest main series Kirby game, and she kind of wanted to go back and experience some of the other Kirby games. So I figured might as well go back to the most recent one before the newest one, and I got a Kirby Star Allies. Now, I know that this one isn't supposed to be that good, but with it being on the Switch and my girlfriend really being into playing stuff on her Switch, I figured that this was probably going to be the best choice. Sometimes she doesn't really like the visuals of older games, so I figured I would get her something that she'd probably enjoy more than like Kirby's Adventure or something like that. Now, I myself haven't actually played this yet, but I've seen quite a lot of it and I kind of get the gist of it. I'm actually not that big of a fan of Kirby, to be honest. I've tried playing several of the games. I've tried playing Kirby's Adventure and I couldn't get into it. I've tried many times to play Kirby 64 and I can't get into that either. The one that I've gotten most into out of like the 2D style ones is probably Triple Deluxe, but even then I didn't get very far because I just find it to be quite boring. It kind of just feels to me like in all of these different Kirby games that every level just feels the same, and I don't know whether that's because of Kirby's moveset with him being able to like float, kind of making it so that you can just go over everything, or whether it's just that the level design is just a little bit too basic for my tastes. But yeah, I've never really gotten into a Kirby game, that is until the newest one with Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which I actually quite liked. But yeah, Kirby Star Allies, I'll give it a go, definitely at some point, but I don't think this one is going to be for me if it's anything like the other Kirby games. In fact, to be honest, I've heard that this is one of the worst of the Kirby games, so yeah, I'm probably definitely not going to like it, but I'll give it a go at some point. The second game my girlfriend got for her birthday is Mario Party Superstars for the Switch. Now this is one that we've actually played quite a lot. We've played through all of the game boards at least once, and we've been having quite a lot of fun with it. Like Nintendo Switch Sports though, it's kind of lacking in content. There's only, what, like I think 5 boards? Is it 5 or 6? Something like that. But either way, it just doesn't feel like enough. What is there is really good, but it just kind of feels like they could have gone much more all out with this. It could have had like 20 boards and been like the ultimate Mario Party game. And I don't really understand why they didn't do that, because it's not like making these boards would be all that difficult, right? I kind of just think that with these sort of side games, Nintendo are very, very lazy, and even though they could make them really good, they just don't do that for some reason. I get the impression that the logic that they're using is that they can release the games in unfinished states, see how well they sell, and then choose if they want to finish them with updates or just drop them without wasting resources. But I just think that that's a really scummy tactic, because obviously if the games are kind of lacking in content, they're not going to sell as well as they would if it was actually released as the finished game, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But yeah, what is here is very good. You can play the game online with people, there's 100 mini-games. Like I say, there's kind of a variety of boards, although I wish there was a lot more. So yeah, it's a fun little game. It's very, very annoying though, because you can get like your stars stolen off of you quite easily. You can lose coins. Like there's loads of ways that you can kind of like mess up your opponents in really kind of unfair ways. But I feel like that's a part of the fun. You're supposed to get annoyed at each other when you're playing Mario Party, right? The last game that we're going to be talking about today is one that neither I or my girlfriend got for our birthdays. I know, what a shock. My girlfriend actually got this one on her own because she thought it looked quite cool, and I wasn't really very interested in the look of this, to be honest. And yeah, after seeing it being played, I was probably right to think that, because this is the remake of Kao the Kangaroo. Now, I don't want to be too harsh on this because I know that it's kind of like a smaller scale game, but quite frankly, I think that the original version of Kao the Kangaroo probably looks better than the remake. Maybe not in terms of sheer graphical quality, of course, but just in terms of the charm. I think that the original looks better. I don't know, the remake kind of just looks really, really generic. I can't quite put my finger on what it is, but it just looks so uninspired to me. The story almost seems to take itself a little bit too seriously for what it is. Some of the jokes just completely fall flat. It seems very, very basic from what I've seen, but to be honest, I probably shouldn't judge it too harshly because I've not really played it for myself. I feel like I've been really negative about every single one of these games, and it's not that I hate any of them or anything, it's probably just that I think that even the ones that I like are quite heavily flawed, and also there are some that I just don't like, but that's just a personal preference, really. There's probably tons of people that absolutely love this game, and to be honest, I might even love it if I actually give it a chance, but I've not actually played it yet. I've just been watching little bits of my girlfriend playing it. So yeah, I shouldn't judge things before I've actually played them. I should give this a chance. But yeah, there we go. Probably the most negative of any of my game pickups videos. But yeah, I just haven't really gelled with any of the games that I've picked up over the last few months. Probably the one I've had the most fun with, like I say, is Nintendo Switch Sports, but even then it does have elements that are pretty bad. Hopefully the next game pickups video will be a lot more positive. Like I say, I could end up getting the Klonoa remakes, which I'm sure that I would enjoy. I do also want to try out the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge game that came out recently. Don't really know why I've not already picked that one up, to be honest. Although I don't normally like beat-em-ups, so I might not even like that game either, but I kind of just want to get it because it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and I'm a fan. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Maybe if I end up getting that, I might even make a video on it, just talking about my thoughts in general. But we'll see. Not sure if I'll get around to that or not. But yeah, I know later in the year we've got God of War Ragnarok, we've got The Last of Us Part 1, which I'm very interested in. And there's probably also a couple of other things that I'm forgetting about that look cool. Oh yeah, the Callisto Protocol looks really, really good. I'm really excited for that, actually. Oh yeah, and another one, of course, is Splatoon 3 that I'm pretty excited for. I got really into Splatoon 1 and 2, so I'm hoping that I'm going to get really into Splatoon 3 as well and take part in all of the Splatfests and stuff. That should be good. So yeah, quite a lot to look forward to coming later in the year. I just feel like the first half of this year has been kind of really, really slow for game releases. But yeah, from the looks of it, it's going to pick up later, so hopefully the next game pickups will be a bit more eventful than this one. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video, give it a like, let me know in the comments what you've been picking up recently. Have you found any games that you've really, really enjoyed that you think I should know about? If so, let me know. Also subscribe to see more stuff like this coming soon, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!